got a build cost of about 20K. So from the, I guess, the start of the process to the end, and then whether that's going to increase revenue or decrease costs. Varun Gupta from Pengana, thank you very much for coming in and talking to me today about the idea that I believe was entirely your idea, your brilliance. Before we dive into your idea, let's talk a bit about Pengana Capital itself. Just give us a heads up on what it does and I guess its special sauce.
Sure. So Pengana Capital Group is an ASIC listed funds management group. We're an actively diversified investment manager across multiple asset classes, if you must. Our main, I guess, bread and butter comes from managing client money.
Okay.
And essentially where we have a stable of these strategies that actively invest and try to outperform certain benchmarks or certain markets. Now, across maybe 6 to 7 different countries is where we operate.
Okay.
We, in terms of our investment managers at least, we have specializations within each investment manager. And I guess the aim at the end of the day is to quite literally outperform
the market.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is really everyone in this market that's trying to make money and make wealth creation happen. Now, in terms of what I do, I guess it involves a little bit. I head up client service entirely.
Okay.
And I guess one of the aspects of my business is quite literally providing service, or I guess we're really servicing for retail clients as well as direct clients.
Okay.
The business itself doesn't really deal with institutional clients as much. So whether it be your average advisor, all the way up to your family office, comes through client service. And I guess we really try and aim to provide that service across the field and across the board.
Okay, nice. All right. So within that framework, within that business context, tell us about your idea. What problem were you looking to solve and how did you decide you wanted to solve it?
Yep. So my idea really came off the back of a capital raise that we had done last year in October. I just realized that after a certain period of time, you start noticing that there's certain requests from clients aren't too different. A lot of them can be repeated. And slowly, given my own background as well in software engineering, I realized that some of the stuff doesn't have to be fully overseen by me. Obviously, there's personal client requests that come through that have to be personalized.
Yep.
But, the average client may just ask for, the form to update your address. As for example, it's a very basic example, but something as simple as that is a standard question, and you can provide a template response. After a while of, having a bunch of late nights where I was, responding to a bunch of these queries off the back of this phrase, I realized that, this can be automated. I do it myself on my own aspects of my life, whether it's my personal time or whether I do it for my parents' business. And, I've helped out a bit. I've automated a bit. So I was trying to play around, and I ultimately came to this idea, why can't I do this for work? Right. And so quite literally it came about, and I pitched it to, I guess, Dan, who's sort of my manager, and we worked together in terms of coming to an idea, and this is where we landed.
Okay. So am I right that the idea name is AI-driven executive reporting and management commentary automation?
You are right. So it is a bit broad. I kept it very vague for a specific purpose because when I first started off with the idea, I kept it very limited. I only kept it for client service, in my head at least.
Yep.
And then I sat on the idea for a bit and I started thinking about it. And then I realized that it's not just limited to client service. We can make this application work for the broader business. And by giving it such a generic name, we can actually start applying it to different facets of, I guess, or different aspects of the business, even if we want to. Because I'm sure there are aspects that can be automated, like there's certain requests that may come through, even to the management team, that can be quite literally an automated response. If, let's say, they've addressed queries like this before, let's just say even in general, if some news hits the market, a lot of, news outlets reach out to you, even as the management side, or our media relations team.
So what I want to understand is, what will it actually look like, the process flow? So from the start of the process to the end, and then whether that's going to increase revenue or decrease costs. Just to interrupt things quickly, if you are all in on AI or soon will be, you're going to want a managed service that enables your team to make the most of your investment. If you want to learn more about Core and the future of managed services, get in touch to find out.
To begin with, at the very least, I would like to help automate, I guess, the client services side, because I want us, or I guess me and my team, to focus on actually servicing the clients. Whether it be new investors, old investors, advisors, family offices that are reaching out, high net worth individuals, retirees. I want to actually focus on building that relationship. Clients that can, that will email us about certain things that can be automated, i.e. in the sense like, if they want any forms, whether it be like an additional investment form, something that can be available on our website, but the client isn't aware of how to, they may not be technologically literate enough to find the form, or, it may just be something as simple as they just want it directly given to them because they want to, like, they don't want to download something off a website. It's something something as simple as that. That is something that we do not need to focus on as a high priority event. Like
would they be accessing that through like a chatbot, or would that be just through a portal? They lodge a request and it comes back automatically with the answer via email? Like, how's that going to work?
So it'll still be like, at this stage at least, it's anyone that emails us directly for it. Eventually, I mean, so this sort of falls into one of your later questions about what considerations did you have for AI. I guess I did consider a chatbot into it, but I guess there's also been certain regulations. I mean, like with ASIC coming out saying that chatbots may be more regularly monitored or more closely monitored if you have them on the financial services website. And just one of those considerations was like, it could be a chatbot, but then ultimately I decided if it was an internal process, it would be much easier. So anything that comes through, and mind you, we're fielding like, hundreds of emails every day. It can vary depending on what time of the year it is. Like, so when we have, let's say when we hit the market with multiple capital raises, or if we're going out to market, trying to raise money for a certain fund, you'll start seeing that certain queries start building up for the same thing.
Right.
And so there's stuff that is still from the past that you still have to do. But like after a while, you start noticing, hey, like if I know I'm going out to market with these things, I should just have like, a preset template that I can feed the AI. And it's like, regardless of how someone will ask you a question, ultimately, when you go out to the market with, a certain campaign, the questions will be pretty similar. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel here. You can have a set criteria you can draw on. You could give, obviously, AI guardrails. In some ways, you could say that it would be a better response than a human would be because, as a person, sometimes you feel like you want to add more insight. But if you give guardrails to the AI, I can just say, do not extract more information than what you have here. And then it will not provide any other context other than what this is. Obviously, if a client comes back for more information, we're more than happy to make it, human.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I do see it not only, I guess, reducing costs in the sense like we're not wasting man hours on something. Like if you think about it like this, if I spend a minute replying to a client's email for just a form, let's say I'm doing 10 of those a day, that's 10 minutes of my day that I could have been focusing on, or I could have called a client, booked another meeting. And I guess one of those focuses, or, I could have just addressed a client query that, may potentially lead to, more investments, that type of thing. And I guess you could say that it's both, like, we're decreasing costs and increasing revenue. That is the ultimate aim. That's how I see it happening on the P&L.
So just on that though, so the P&L, you think you're going to need to employ more people at a slower rate as you get more clients as a result of this, and that's how the P&L
yeah,
be
pretty much.
Okay.
And as well, I guess you sort of nailed it, where we can have more, like, we're already a very lean structure. So, we manage our clients quite efficiently. And it's just by freeing up more time, as of the existing team, we can also increase capacity, right? We can service our clients better. We can focus on future targets wherein, like, do we want to hit certain campaigns? We got to get in touch with certain clients because some clients come in, they fall out of touch. This has actually happened a lot, but some clients even forget they even have investments, right? Which is very weird if you think about it, because you think that, like, given clients do have a lot of money with us, right? You'd think that you'd remember it, but some people, it's quite surprising. Some people generally forget.
I guess they may have a lot of money.
I mean, yeah, it is. Like, again, our sweet spot is sort of in that high net worth individuals.
Right.
space, so sometimes it is common. Sometimes it's just, your older clients, the only thing they ever used to receive was by post, so they never went digital. So like we have no other way of contacting them until they reach out to us. That's just the reality of the fact that sometimes clients just forget. And like you can give them as much information as you want, but it ultimately falls on the client, right? And so essentially, you want to pick up from that side where you want to make sure that you're constantly in touch with clients, and just to sort of encourage that, you want to make sure that you have that extra time. So like a task that can be, I guess, made into a simple workflow, right? That I think it should be. And I'm of that thought that like if I don't need to, like again, if it's a standard request, I don't think it requires a personal touch just yet.
Okay, so sounds like you've got that idea is locked in. That's what you're going to run with. That's what we're going to help fund. What ideas did that beat out within the business? Like, and also same concept, I guess, is what have you already done in the AI space? So what have you already done, and what other ideas did the one you're talking about with me today beat in terms of priority? Just to interrupt things quickly, if you are all in on AI or soon will be, you're going to want a managed service that enables your team to make the most of your investment. If you want to learn more about Core and the future of managed services, get in touch to find out.
I'm sort of taking charge in terms of providing, I guess, revolutionizing the workplace with AI.
Good on you.
Now, for me, at least at this stage, like I said, we're in the very small ideation phase. Ultimately, I would like to see this becoming a lot more interactive with the business itself. Part of it would be including like management reporting, for example. So, for example, a funds management business is very reliant on what funds are flowing in, month out, what is coming in, what is coming out. So, we have roughly 4 billion under management. Now, that's a lot of money. And ultimately, you do need to know who your clients are. Like, you want to know who your big clients are. You want to know who your small clients are. And ultimately, I would like to, what I would like to see, again, I can't speak on behalf of the business yet, but I would like for it to become part of even the management of clients. So, like we have our fund flow reports, right, where we get monthly flows. And then by being able to essentially put that report through the AI, we would be able to determine more information, like, be able to track more closely. Like if I was to ask the AI, what is the change from Q1 to Q2? And what strategies are seeing the most amount of fund flows? Essentially being able to provide me what the data already says, but instead, like in a more interactive fashion, because more often than not, you do require manual oversight and stuff like this. And I would like it to become a process where I can just provide the data, and based on what the data has, obviously it will require a bit of tweaking, a bit of playing. It will provide me insights, like a set template of insights that I want to know what these key factors have changed.
Okay.
We do have certain things that we want to measure against. And by measuring those changes, we also want to see where can we win more money, where can we make it, continue for the business to grow. Essentially, by identifying where our pain spots are, we can focus on certain clients. Client retention is also a big thing, not only winning new money, but retaining money is a big factor of the business. So, just being even able to see based on if money's come in, how, like, which clients do we have to service? Like if there is, because this business is very cyclical. So that means, when markets go up, everything tends to go up.
Yeah.
Markets come off, things tend to typically come off. Now, that is apparent for every business in the space, and it does happen. And, you want to be able to reassure your clients that, hey, nothing's gone wrong. So just being able to even identify it from like a broad level, it would be quite helpful. So that's essentially what I see a fruitioning to. And that's a very end stage type of goal. But it starts at it starts quite small, but that's pretty much the goal.
Okay. And so what do you need to see from this proof of concept initial stage for the business you think to buy into kicking on with all the rest?
Quite literally. So if I can, prove to the business that we can automate something as simple as emails, where we're being able to, any queries we come through, we get in, it can provide everything correctly. There is obviously a lot of concerns regarding sometimes with AI hallucinations. So I do want to make sure that everything that comes through is processed correctly. Like once I know I've done my tests, I know that, like First Focus has done their tests, we can slowly start building out further and further to ultimately get to a stage where I know we can achieve a lot with this.
Okay, nice. So with the process from here, are you already working on it with our software dev team?
We haven't gotten to it just yet.
Okay.
There are some concerns around, I guess, data management,
Yeah.
and that is an internal conversation we've been having. We will be building it out soon. I think we're in the final stages of deciding it internally on what model that we'd like to proceed with.
Okay.
And then once we get like an official answer, we'll be able to obviously get back to the dev team and start building.
How long do you think that process will take once you give it the green light?
The whole point of, I guess, this AI at least, was meant to be low cost and sort of easy to build out. I think it should not take more than 3 to 4 weeks. It's a quick implementation. Like I said, I've seen other variations, or I guess wrappers of this out in the market already, and this is from like businesses selling to other businesses. And I think it's a pretty practical model because we already have all the data sets we need. Like there's nothing further we need to purchase. Ultimately, it just comes down to actually building the product. There will be a bit of tweaks, I fully understand, but I think it's a doable project if there's sufficient, I guess, resources that we should be able to build out in 4 weeks and then maybe leave 2 weeks for testing. So the 4 to 6 week range is quite the sweet spot.
So we've got, in the sheet I'm looking for out here, we've got an estimated annual benefit of $125,000. We've got a bill cost of about $20K, and we've got a 5% Australian dollar, 5% support AUD overhead of, I guess, $1,000. Is that per month or per year?
Per year. So that's per year. So I base that based off of how many hours I worked overtime, the capital raise that we conducted.
Okay.
It did get quite a bit because you had a lot of clients calling every day.
Yeah.
I do head up the team, so I can see firsthand, right, like that there was a lot of calls coming through, and ultimately you want to give every client the best
Great
service.
experience.
Yeah, exactly, right? So some calls were going into 20, 30 minutes, right? And it's like, if I take 5 of those calls, I basically have no time to actually do any of the other work that I have to do on a day-to-day basis, or like BAU activity. So it gets quite easy to get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
I noticed that across myself and my fellow colleagues. Like it's very standard, especially when you have great products. It's a natural flow and effect that, it's people will call, people will ask, how do we get in, right? And I guess to be able to better field those calls, but also manage the standard inquiries that are coming in, it's like you slowly start to realize that, and this is where it's sort of fruition, right? I can slowly start seeing that I'm doing the same thing again and again. If this was just, like auto-generated, like I could chuck this into AI.
It's a classic thing. Is it repetitive? Is it very similar each time?
Yeah. So it's like a lot of times when it is similar, I can just quite literally, I can set the AI on.
Yeah.
Like that's my aim, right? I can set it on whether we're going out in the campaign, whether we've had like a great month, our performance has been great across our products, whether we've hit the market with new news. You want to be ready regardless of the weather, right? Like it doesn't matter whether it's rain, hail, or shine.
Yeah.
I want something there that is helping us regardless.
Can we rely on?
Yeah. And it's just one of those things because unfortunately you can never really, like in this space at least, you can never really predict what tomorrow brings. So one of the biggest factors you have to think about is how do you prepare for it, which in this sense is...
It sounds good. You're going to have something that helps you deal with the periods of high volume and something that helps you provide the same high quality of standard, of service time and time again. And it sounds like my smart play here is to get back in touch with you in about 3 months and see what it looks like in terms of end user outcomes. So I'll do that, and I look forward to talking to you again then.
Yeah, no worries. I look forward to be back.
Thank you, and thanks for coming in. Thanks for making the application. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.